have some questions, which I ask and sort of structure things, but feel free to digress and expand. Since I don't know you that well, I can't know exactly what to ask all the time. Comes up that's exciting to you, just feel free to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the place to start is maybe some of your own training and background and how you developed into the artist that you are today. And you're a Canadian.
I'm Canadian born.
Canadian born.
Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm there. I suppose you'd like to know about the studies, the early studies and so on.
Sure.
Studied in Montreal, of course, as a youngster. It was one of those kind of studies. Started about 4 years of age, and already I was taking lessons
Mm-hmm.
from a local, not a very well-known teacher or anything, but they did some progress in those days. They gave me terribly difficult pieces. I remember when I was 4 or 5, I was playing the Mozart D minor concerto. Can you imagine?
No, really?
You can imagine how badly I must have played it, but I mean, I hacked around.
Could you
with
even
it.
reach the first opening octave?
I guess I could sort of reach an octave like this, you know. I remember there was a this part was giving me fits.
Well,
in the
at
bass,
that
well,
age,
at that
you
age,
can be
you know.
forgiven.
I know I had to have a special pedal put on the piano that I had. And those days I lived in the house with my parents, of course, and we had a special thing stuck on the pedal so I could reach it.
Yeah.
That's all I remember, very much.
Were they musical, your parents?
Well, they were just, not musicians, no. They just liked music, but they didn't know very much about it. My mother was a sort of singer in Denmark. She was Danish. She used to sing semi-professionally and did a lot of dance and ballet and theater and things like that. She was very good at theater, especially in Denmark. But never really became, I think she could have become something, but didn't have the means at the time to do it. So. But my father also played the violin, especially well. He played it at one time in his life.
As an amateur, as an avocation.
An amateur, yeah. So, and my father was an artist in another way. He was a commercial artist. My grandfather was a sculptor, so there was some art in the background way back.
Are some of these pieces from your family?
Some of them are from my father, yes. This is done by my cousin, actually. My cousin out in Colorado. My father's side. These are some Dutch paintings and different. This is my father's sketch of a postcard, actually. Of a postcard. That's a Canadian. That's a group of 7, actually. One of the lesser-known group of 7 members. That's Mozart. I don't know who
he made 7.
Group of 7 is a rather famous group, probably not in the States at all, but up here it's a famous group of artists that a while back, around 1900, around that time, they got together and sort of formed a school of art in this country, and their paintings now are quite valuable. Some of them, they come really sky high.
Oh, I'm glad to know that. A group of 7. And your father was in that?
No, my father was nothing to do with that. That painting is just happened to be by one of those people. Although it's not a very valuable one, I don't think. But this is just a Mozart painting by, I don't know who. No, I'm not into art that much. I mean, I don't do anything. I can't paint it. Walls.
So were both of your parents immigrants?
My father lived in New York. He was from New York originally. His father was from Italy. And my mother was born in Denmark. So both my parents were born outside of Canada. I just happened to be born in Canada.
They were living at that time?
At that time in Montreal.
You studied with someone local, like the neighborhood teacher?
It was a teacher who taught at McGill University, actually. McGill Conservatory of Music, which was kind of separate from the university, I think, at the time. And then I went on to another private teacher shortly after. I was about 7 or so. And then I went into the conservatory when I was about 9. At the Montreal Conservatory, Quebec Provincial Conservatory here in Montreal. And studied there for quite until I was about 16, I would say. Yeah, 16, 17, around that.
So those are important years, 9 to
Mhm.
16.
Not more important than most.
Who was your teacher at that time?
Well, I had a couple of teachers, lady teachers. One was from Montreal, the other was from France. And, well, I learned certain things from them, but let's say they didn't, none of the teaching in Montreal was up to the standard I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Were you aware of that at that time?
not really. See, I wasn't probably mature enough to know. I hadn't been exposed to other teaching and other music from outside.
Mm-hmm.
I was a local boy, and I did fairly well in little small competitions around Montreal stuff. But I never really got out to know what's going on. Finally, I did play for Rudolph Circuit at one point. When he came to Montreal, and he told my parents that I need some other teaching. You know, I just can't go on like that.
How old were that? Was when you
I
were
was about 16, 17 in that age group. And then I did go summer. He said I should come down in summers to Marlborough in Vermont. That school that they have there in the summers. And I did some studies there. Finally, he recommended me that I study there, even in the wintertime, because there was a resident pianist that he knew there. And I studied with him for a year, but it didn't work out too well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd heard about Isabel Vengerova.
Sure.
At the school, at Marlborough, I heard about Vengerova. And so many people, like Graffin was there at the time, and he studied with Isabel Vengerova. So finally I went to New York and auditioned for Vengerova and got in.
She taught in New York, didn't she?
She taught at that time in New York. She'd been teaching in Philadelphia, mostly in Curtis, I think. And she taught sometime in New York. And I remember I had to go to the Managed College of Music to audition for her. I'd have to go there and audition for somebody else first, before somebody else would say, okay, you're good enough to try to audition to Vengerova. Then I had to go to Vengerova, and it was very hard to get into her.
You had to try a couple times?
No, I got in right away.
Oh, you did get in?
I didn't have any problem, but it's just that she was so old at the time, and she died a year later, so I got certain things from her, but I felt I could have got a lot more if I got in earlier. You know. But I continued with her assistant, who was a very fine teacher in her own way, especially for technical things, musical things, you know, instructor and whatever. This teacher was very good. August Tumillo, I don't know if you know her.
Yeah, I've heard the name. Is she still teaching?
I don't keep much contact with them anymore, but she moved to Pennsylvania to the country and doesn't teach in New York anymore. She was teaching at Madison, and she was teaching privately. Then, of course, I went to Horowitz.
I'd like to ask you about that, if it's okay. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
Pretty rarefied atmosphere.
The funny thing was, I
mortals
wasn't
like me.
searching out Horowitz or anything. I didn't even know he was interested in teaching, and I know Horowitz was Horowitz, and I had never any idea of playing for him. But Madame Stumillo, who I studied with at the time, somebody said, well, how'd you like to play for Horowitz? I said, oh, I'd be too scared. He said, oh, he's a darling, you know, and so on and so forth. So that's how it came about. I said,
Well, did you have a heart attack when she even mentioned the idea? Or?
well, I don't know. At first I said, well, I'd like to study with you. I like your teaching, and I don't know if I want to study with him. But I think he said, oh, he's marvelous. He said, of course, you know, just the same. So I said, yeah, well, okay, I'll audition for him and see how it goes. And I'm going to be very nervous because I know who he is. You know? He says, well, just play whatever you happen to know now. And I remember when I was working with Beethoven Sonata, I don't know if it was a Appassionata or Ballstein, one of those two. And well, I think it was a Appassionata. And I brought it into him. He was very kind when he came in to audition me.
Was it at his home?
At his home, yes. And he was a really large 4-story house at that time. I don't know whether he's even there anymore. Probably is. And he was very kind. He said, doesn't matter how you play badly, you play well, doesn't matter, I will know if you're good or not. So don't be nervous, don't worry. Meaning if I had a bad day and got nervous, didn't play well, he could tell anyway.
That's very sweet to kind of
put me at ease. Yeah. Anyway, you know. So he said, okay, we'll try it out for, I think it was 3 months.
There's a testing period, trial period?
Kind of a trial period to see how it would work out. And we ended up going 5 years or more.
Amazing.
But I used to commute. I didn't live in New York City. I didn't really want to live there, and it was very expensive to live there. I had a piano at home. In fact, it's this piano now, which is completely kaput. It's completely shut. It needs a complete overhaul. I don't use it. It's just a piece of furniture right now, because I have a piano at school. So I had this piano in the house at home
in Montreal.
Place to practice there, and then commute down every couple of weeks to have lessons.
Could you talk about it's hard to talk about how someone plays the piano. It really is. It's like describing a color.
It's very hard to say. He has a very special sound, as you know. Have you ever heard him in public? No.
I did in Chicago, which was an overwhelming experience in '68 when he came back, and it would still seem to be at full power. The sound was incredible. I had good seats in the balcony, which I think is the best place to listen. And it doesn't sound like any other.
No, it sounds so
unmistakable.
Projected in such a way that it's so marvelous.
How does do you know how he does it? Do you have any feelings about it?
Well, I don't play that way. I don't play exactly that way.
He didn't demand that necessarily.
To a point, he did. Yes, it was good for me what he did. Because he kept trying to get more and more sound out of me, and more. He was very particular about getting strong little fingers, strong fourth, very, very strong hand.
This one here?
Yeah. Because you know how he could play like that, and it would just be like a shot out of a gun. It's really sound. Boom! The bell. So he said, this is what is most of these two fingers, especially.
So left hand.
It's where the melodies are played, generally, and left hand is where the lower basses are played, supposedly the keys, he says. But these usually are accompaniments, right? Most of the time, not unless you're playing Bach, I mean, unless you can hear. But it made a lot of sense to me when he was trying to teach me. He didn't go in very much for technical teaching. More or less, I'd have to play the piece through. He'd expect me to play the lesson. At least to move it, to move for the sonata, or you just sit and listen. Most of the time, I had even to memorize it the first time. If not the first time, second time, definitely I had to memorize. Which was quite the opposite from what Wagner was teaching. She wanted me to look at the score very much. Always look at the score to be sure I don't miss a speck on there. And I think that's a great idea too.
So her teaching she wasn't in such a rush for her students to memorize?
At least not with me at the time. She wanted to be sure I saw everything there before I worried about memorizing it. I have to know it. Not to memorize things wrong, the lead thing. Because when I first came there, I had less than perfect kind of teaching guidance, and I was kind of be a little sloppy about detail. But that's where I learned a lot of things that I teach now. From both of those, from all three, Vangelis, Tamilo, and Horowitz, I teach, or try to teach, what I found from them, what I learned from them.
So you would have a piece, I assume, pretty well developed by the time you
Well, yes, fairly well developed. Presentable so that he could work at it. He wasn't about to teach me how to play the fingering or all that's my own business.
And he would let you play the whole piece through, you mentioned?
Yes, he would usually lie down and recline so he could listen very well. And then he
didn't look at
after that, no, not necessarily. Sometimes he would, sometimes he wouldn't, and he would sit there. Then he would tell me what was wrong with it, pretty much. Ask me a few questions about why this, why that, and the feeling are you trying to portray here, or what mood is this piece, and what sound you want,
Do you remember specific works that you worked with him that stand out as?
Well, I remember some works that I worked with him that I could never satisfy him with, no way.
What were those?
One was the B-flat minor sonata of Chopin. If you know my sonata, which he's played so much. And he was always, could never get pedaling right. He didn't get this guts into it or something, He always used to say, more guts, which meant, more of the fire.
Sound,
Yeah. Which he has so well, he projects.
Yeah, and how,
like a tiger,
Yeah. In the scherzo movement in particular.
Yes, he wanted that crescendo. It's in the book, written. Let's do that.
It seems to me he recorded that piece several times himself, at least twice. So maybe it was dissatisfied with his own.
Well, he used to do a lot of these pieces over and over again. I mean, the G minor ballade, I don't know how many times he recorded that, for example.
Yeah.
And every time different.
Mm-hmm.
He would change it. He used to complain about his own recordings sometimes. You know, he'd say, "Oh, the Moonlight Sonata is way too slow. First movement," he says, "doesn't hold." He says, "It's too slow. We'll do it again next time faster."
If I remember correctly, Horowitz is on record as saying he does not know exactly how he'll play until he plays. I mean, sort of creating it on the spot. Is that?
Well, he used to talk about Rachmaninoff doing that. He said Rachmaninoff never played twice the same way. Sometimes they play things forte, sometimes they play things piano. They're the same thing. If you listen to some of his recordings, you probably notice that he marks in the book on his scores a piano or a forte. He might do just the opposite in the recording that he plays. So I think in that time period they did a lot of that, much more than we do today. You know, very much freedom of expression. Well, what can I say about Horowitz? So many little things. Well, he was generally easy to work with. I mean, he wasn't a nasty person to work with, like a lot of teachers can be. He could tell you in no uncertain terms when you didn't play well. Oh yes. Oh yes. He would, but he would say it in a nice way generally.
Would he demonstrate?
Yes, he would.
Sometimes?
He would do it, but never a whole piece. Usually 5 or 6 bars, or even 1 bar, or even small pieces, little detail. He said, you know, do something like this, he said, but not exactly like this, something like this, you know.
Don't imitate.
Don't copy, but this is the idea, you know, more or less. And then with pedal, of course, you could never please him with a pedal. Pedaling was so difficult. He had a foot that, you know, just worked to his ear. Direct connection between the ear and the foot.
I see. So he must have one of the greatest ears in that sense.
Yeah, well, he hears everything.
And so the pedaling was very refined?
The pedaling was very, very advanced, very refined, something you couldn't be taught that much. Rarely would he say, put the pedal on here, take it off here, and put it down here. He would just say, more pedal or less pedal. But it needs to be more wet sounding here. There's more pedal, more wet sounding, and more dry here, you see. So this would be his way. But he would not teach specifically detail about how to pedal. You'd have to find it out.
But based on what he was hearing?
Based on what you hear. He'd want you to hear things first and then pedal according to your ear rather than according to some rule, as you know. I like that idea of pedaling myself, really, you know, to be able to finally get to that point. Because I find that you cannot, not everybody can do that right off. And it's something you have to work up to, and you do have to know basic principles of when to put the pedal down and up before you can get to that stage that he is at. Nobody can do that. I mean, for a student to tell them just to pedal by ear entirely, it'll take them a while before they get it. They have to try, but sometimes you have to help them along.
I have a feeling that with Horowitz, and correct me if I'm wrong, but certainly the pedal was used not just to his use, not just for harmonic reasons, but to change the quality of the tonal quality.
Right.
And to project the melody. Give it a different character.
Right. Well, he did some tremendous things with melodies and accompaniments and the way he balanced them and the way he used the pedal between the two things, between the balance this way and the pedal. He just got all kinds of varieties of color that most pianists can't do.
Did he work with you a lot on
the inner
voices?
Yes, now and then, yes. Not as much as maybe I do myself now. I'm more interested in inner voices maybe than he was, I don't know, but he had such a tremendous amount of projection in the melody and such a variety of dynamics in the melodies. He didn't play his melodies like this. It was always lots of weight somehow. Is why it doesn't sound ugly when you play so strongly. Sometimes you play very strongly in melody, you notice me, but very strongly, but it never was ugly because it always had a shape.
Like in his recording of the Rachmaninoff, the opening of the Rachmaninoff Third, the new recording.
Well, the new one. Now, the new one is different from the old one.
But it's kind of brilliantly punched out, but it's beautifully shaped. And,
yeah.
But that strong sound, which I guess that has something to do with his piano too, doesn't it? This week?
Well, he generally leaned toward fairly bright pianos. Really. He wanted something that had a terrific projection and a big tone at the same time. It's hard to find in today's instruments.
Yes, yeah,
They don't exist like that nowadays.
something you said struck me, that the connection between the ear and
And the foot was almost like automatic. It was
just a kind of almost like a feedback.
the feedback, that's what I mean. It's an automatic system
Yeah.
that you could probably develop with enough practice, enough experience, and
Excuse me.
well-developed listening.
Yeah.
That's the whole key. You know. He was always after that. Listen. You're not listening enough now. Huh?
Be aware of.
This is where you play. Well, I must say, you can learn a lot from somebody like that who has the experience of being on stage as well, as being, a super artist. And well, some people who maybe claim, who studied with him didn't get so much out of it. I know there's pros and cons to studying with Horowitz, of course, but I must say I learned a tremendous amount. I don't take everything maybe he says, but I certainly.
You had contact with him after you studied with him?
For a while I had some contact, but then kind of faded out. I just, because I'm kind of not one to keep things going as long as I should, perhaps. And so I haven't really had much contact with him lately, in the last 2 or 3 years anyway. I understand he played over in Japan even at one time.
I heard that, yeah. Within the last few years.
So this is his 80th year, I think. Was it his 80th?
I think he was born in 1904, yeah.
He just turned 80. Right.
How about the physical?
The hand position, I think?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. He was very much for, he would not teach me exactly the way he played.
Sort of a flat, he has kind of those...
But he seems to be playing at this angle, kind of this way, and what he does is he
with
plays...
a high wrist, do you mean?
Not as much a high wrist, but the high here and long fingers, kind of. They look straight when he plays this way. And he plays a lot like that, because he pulls in when he plays. And he said, don't worry about that. It took me 50 years to learn. It's very hard to control. I don't recommend it. That's what he told me. He said, just play this way. He said, strong position with a dome, like the Russian school, high arch. That's basically what I teach now and what I try to do. And that this kind of playing does work for certain things. Brilliant, let's say the Blackie Etude. A little bit of that certainly works very well. Helps. Without, to do it without getting all tired out, to play that away. There's no substitute for lots of practice in doing something like that, of course, too. With the winter wind, you have to be in shape in order to get through 8 pages of high-speed etudes.
You mean endurance?
You have to work, endurance-wise. You cannot just, sit down and do it. Maybe there are a few people in the world who can, I don't know, but I'm not one of them. You have to work at it.
So this arched...
But basically, you want to get away from playing with a low arch this way. So you lose all your control. And your fingers being this low, this is where the finger is connected to the hand. But the difference between here, I think, and here is important. If this is on the same level almost, then you don't have much control or much strength. But if this is high compared to here, you have a lot more strength. And with strength you can control too. Your fingers don't buckle as they would this way, they're kind of wobbly.
How about the he must use a lot of...
Well, chords,
whole
fortissimo
body.
chords, you know how he could play them. And the thing about his chords is that every note was well controlled. And he could play them in any kind of balance he would want, from top to bottom, from lots of bottom to lots of top, depending on the context of what sound he wanted to get. Most of it came from here. He would say, okay, play like that, and he never plays it this way, like you see so many times. Just right from the surface of the key, and it comes from back here, and he'd grab a hold of my back and say if he could feel the tension going somewhere around in here, and he'd grab me, and he said, no, that's not right, that's better. He'd feel the muscle feeling to see if I was pushing against my body, which is actually what we're doing. You're pushing against your body to some extent. The weight is here, and you push against that. So you get, without attacking the piano, without slapping the piano.
Is it almost like you're pushing yourself up off the bench?
Have you ever seen Rubinstein when he sometimes does like that? Something of the same idea.
He would
push himself right off the bench.
Yeah. So it's the same.
It's the same principle, really.
Seems to me, yeah.
leaning in.
Right. Well, you have to push against something.
Mm-hmm.
So physically, you cannot push down without having an opposite reaction going backward.
Mm-hmm.
You're pushing yourself away from the piano. But of course, you have to be balanced. If you're leaning backward, you're not going to have much strength either.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be balanced over the key so that you get that.
Mm-hmm.
Go straight down.
Another thing about, and as I recall from your concert, I remember you having a very straight back, and even now as you walk. And I think Horowitz does too. Almost.
He has a
like
very straight back, yes.
Almost like a racehorse jockey.
I used to be criticized, I know, for putting my nose in the keyboard too, some years back. I think got less and less of it as I went to Horowitz and got away from it. And I've been trying to correct that. You know, you always have to correct things all your life. You never get through doing that. Yeah. It seems to me that, you know, it's possible to play with your nose in the keyboard. We know one famous Canadian pianist who does that very well. Or did, poor man died. It doesn't make it easier, I don't see.
And another thing, do you work on, under his influence, this voicing of the chords?
Right.
Quite a bit.
I find that very important.
Each.
Listening vertically and listening horizontally is important. There's two separate ways of listening in piano, and they have to kind of be combined. It's not enough to hear how you're going to make diminuendo and crescendo, how you're going to shape a melody, how you're going to shape. You have to know how you're going to shape it this way. What relationship the top note's going to have, the middle, and so on, all the way down to the bottom. That's where we have more to worry about than the violin, because when you get the one line. But we have to be able to control all that. A lot of people don't, quite students don't think about controlling that. They think about controlling this maybe once in a while they worry about the bottom note, but rarely that they even see what's going on and you hear it.
Would you work on that in certain pieces demand that of you?